Hello and welcome to the 12 Months to Marathon podcast with me, John Hill, the running podcast for the over 35s with Marathon Dreams, episode 39, Tapering. Now, the reason why I wanted to do this today, just to put you in the picture, is because a lot of people now are tapering for the big marathons at the end of April or the start of May. There's a few going on there as well. So I wanted just to quickly do tapering in this session today. It's something that I've done on many occasions. I often say tapering is a bit of a weird experience, so I'll hopefully give you some tips to guide you along the way today. So what's going on with me at the moment? So my journey to recovery after having the flu, as some of you know, has been a long process, but I've been running a lot more, did a lot more running last week. I'm trying to balance out recovery and running more, getting some strength in as well. It's a tough old balance because if you're anything like me, you don't like not being able to do things. One of my biggest things since I became fit has been I don't like my ability to do things to be taken away. So there's a bit of frustration there in terms of my mindset. Physically, I think I need to balance it well. I've got a half marathon coming up at the start of May, the Birmingham one. Good event. I do it every year. I like it. It's my local event. I don't think I'll be trying to pull up any trees on that day. We'll have to see how it goes. But yeah, the road to recovery has been interesting. It's been an interesting experience noticing my stats as well, from how primed I was before my marathon on the 16th of March to how much this affected me, which is good because it builds up your immunity, and we've all got to go through that acute illness phase of life. It's just what we have to deal with, whether we're fit or not, really. It's just one of those things that we all have to cope with. So yeah, we're on the mend and it's all good. So right, let's talk about tapering then for you. So I often say it's a bit of a weird one because now there's a bit of background. There are two schools of thought on this. Some people look at a 3-week taper. Some people look at a 2-week taper. Now, all the plans that I've followed, I've always had a 2-week, really. You do start to wind down in the 3rd week prior to the race, 3rd week left prior to the race, if you get what I mean there. And then it's normally a 2-week taper. So I personally prefer a 2-week taper. I would think that a 3-week taper is too long. Now, I'm talking marathons here. If you're listening to this and you're in a half marathon place, I would normally do a week's taper for a half marathon. I don't think you need a 2-week complete taper for a half. You would just work on the similar principles to a marathon, which is naturally going to wind down. But I think you just need a week for a half. That's my own personal opinion and experience. So tapering, first and foremost, when you look at a training plan, if we are coming to the end of a training cycle for you and you're listening to this and you're doing, say, a marathon at the end of April or the start of May, and you think to yourself, I haven't really trained properly, then the first thing to let you know is that that's fine. Take the lessons, go and do the run, take the lessons, and then you get the opportunity, hopefully, to go again and to learn. And that's the beauty of marathon training for me. If you want to go back to the well, you can. There's plenty of marathons, there's plenty of opportunities to do that. So if you don't feel ready, that's okay. It's one of those things. It happens to all of us. I was fortunate in the sense of I got ill after my marathon. If that had have happened in the middle of my training, then well, I would have still gone and done it, but I don't think I would have been anywhere near the time that I achieved. So these things happen to us. So I don't think it's about forgiving yourself and not beating yourself up. I'm serious because I think a lot of people that I speak to come to me and they've never followed a plan in their life or anything, and it's quite interesting. And I sort of was the same for my first 50% of my marathons. I didn't follow a plan. I just loosely followed some sort of skeleton of what I thought I should do based on advice and so on. So it's fine. Forgive yourself. Give yourself a bit of a break and move on if you're in that place. If you're in a proper, you've followed your 16-week plan to the letter place, well, for a marathon, fantastic. And then you've got a 2-week taper, or a 3-week taper. So what I want to say is with the 2-week taper, just to flip back to that, I'm not saying that 2 weeks is better than 3 weeks. I'm just saying that 2 weeks works for me. And all the plans that I've ever used have been a 2-week. I think 3 weeks is too long, depending on the nature of the taper itself. But let's just refresh on marathon training plans in general. So a marathon training plan, and this will help you if you're doing a marathon later in the year, should look like a bit of an inverted horseshoe, basically. So you should build up, get to your peak, and then descend into your taper. Now, in the middle of that, you're going to have peak weeks, which I talked about in a previous podcast, and also you're going to have adaptation weeks. So let's say your peak week bracket is week 9 to week 14, for example. You'll probably have 3 peak weeks and then maybe one to 2 adaptation weeks. And what an adaptation or deload week is when you pull it back slightly, so you're not just constantly hitting it. And a good plan, the right plan, should have that balance in there. Okay. That's the first thing to note. So that's how you should look at a marathon training plan. It should look a bit like it should have the concept of an inverted horseshoe in terms of build up, peak, descent into taper, so you can recover. So tapering is there for your body to recover. Now, I've used the expression hard miles. Okay, so if you follow a 16-week marathon training plan, you will have done your hard miles over 14 weeks. So you can bank it. Now, one of the weird things about tapering, particularly if you're not used to it, is you go from this sheer volume of training to, say, 75 to 50% in the first week of tapering to 25% in the second week of tapering. And particularly in the second week of tapering, it's a bit of an existential crisis, because you're like, well, I've done all this running and now I'm not doing as much. What do I do? But that's the point. It's a recovery time, because your body needs that time to adapt to the volume of training you've put it under. So often what can happen is that if we perhaps haven't trained that well, we panic and think that we've got to make up for that in our tapering weeks. That is not a good idea. The worst thing you can do in a taper, 2 weeks or 3 weeks, is too much. It's not necessarily too little, it's too much. Okay. Now, I remember my last marathon on the 16th of March as I record this year, and my final week of training, literally compared to what it was before, was virtually nothing. I think I did 13 miles in the week, and then obviously the marathon at the end of the week. So obviously, running 13 miles in a week and then doing a marathon, your 13 miles isn't very much at all. I think I did I think it was something like a 4-mile mini interval session, and then I did something like, I think it was 3 5Ks, including my one the day before, the shakeout run, you might have heard it called. So your volume does go down, but you've got to be okay with that, because it's your body's chance to recover and get you ready for the day. Your body's not going to forget that it's done all that volume of training in a couple of weeks. Okay, so it's a chance to relax, both physically and mentally as well, and get yourself ready for the day, particularly if it's your first one. Okay, so a lot of the guys in my running training program, my coaching program, are at that point now where it's the volume's that high, you can see they're getting tired and they're getting relieved that they're coming to that taper. And I think if you're relieved that you're coming to a taper, that tells me that you've followed your training plan properly. So in your taper, if you have a plan, follow it to the letter. Don't be clever. Don't try and do too much. Don't try and think you know more than the plan. And that's a really good piece of advice, that is, for moving forward in following any training plan for any distance. Don't think you're cleverer than the plan, all right, because you're not. If you've got a good plan, it's there for a reason. I've always trusted the plan I follow. It's helped me achieve my goals, and that includes the tapering. It doesn't mean that you won't have the psychological wobbles during the tapering process, because you will, because again, you've gone from this volume to doing perceived, virtually nothing compared to what you have been doing, but that's part of it, and it's your body's chance to recover. And on the day, you will really appreciate that taper time. So when I got to my marathon in March, because I've got my new Garmin, the 265, cheap plug, and it really focused me on how prepared I was, because it said, right, you are meeting all your key race metrics. So my race preparation, my rest, my resting heart rate, my heart rate variability, all the key stats that are important were on point. So it told me I'd tapered properly. So one of the key questions I get asked, like I said before, is, should I make up for runs I've missed? No. This is your chance to rest and do your best on the day if you've got one coming up. But don't stress. You don't want to be stressing in your taper time. What's done is done, okay? And what's going to happen on the day is going to happen on the day. Because ultimately, like I mentioned on an Instagram post the other day, 12 Months to Marathon, don't forget to follow me over there, is you've also got things like on-the-day variables. which you literally can't control. And on the day variable is something like the weather, for example, which is something we can't control, or something that goes wrong that you didn't plan for. So all you need to do as a marathoner, in my opinion, is make sure that all the stuff you can control, you look after. And tapering's a really important part of that. A lot of people can mess up a marathon, or any race for that matter, by what they do in the final couple of weeks and days, because they overreact, or they panic, or they do something wrong. And you've got to be careful of that. So my top tips for tapering: firstly, it's there for a reason. It's okay on that basis to feel a little bit put out by it, because it is something different. It is less than what you've been doing if you followed your plan. That's the first principle. Second principle: if you haven't followed the plan properly, or you've had breaks or whatever, but you still plan on racing and doing the marathon, great, take the lessons. Don't burn yourself out in your taper, because anything you do in the final 2 weeks isn't really going to make that much difference, really, only if you do too much. Yeah. Now, obviously, we don't want to be doing nothing, but we don't want to be doing too much in that tapering time. That's the worst thing you can do, because what will happen is you'll burn yourself out for the day. Now, I was telling the story the other day about when I did London Marathon in 2024. Now, I did London Marathon in 2024. And I had no aspirations about doing a particular time. I just wanted to go back and enjoy it. It was my second time. I didn't necessarily enjoy the first time for reasons I've explained on previous podcasts. So I thought, right, I'm going to go back and enjoy it. Here's the mistakes that I made. First mistake, I did too many steps on the Saturday. So I had to go to the expo on the Saturday because of my situation here. So I left early, walked to the train station, which is about a mile from my house. Got the train into London. Then obviously had to do quite a bit of walking around to go from here to there to where I was staying to the expo, including travelling across London, because where I was staying was nowhere really near the expo. So I ended up doing 20,000 steps on the Saturday. And on the Sunday, my infinite wisdom, because where I was staying was about 2 miles from the start. So I just thought I'll walk. So I walked to the start. Now what I did there, inadvertently, even though physically I didn't feel tired, was I burnt out all my glycogen. So all my glycogen stores were depleted because I did that much activity, even though it was light activity, because I wasn't really planning on racing. So when I did the last one here in Wales in March, I made sure that I didn't do very much at all on the Saturday, even though I was eating more. And that's another thing you've got to consider. You have to build up those glycogen stores, and that's what the end of tapering is for, with your fueling and your carb loading strategy. Even though you might have a bit of a psychological wobble, because you might say, I'm eating all this food, but I'm not doing all the running, I'm going to put weight on. No, you won't, because whatever water you retain will quickly be used when you're out doing the 26.2 miles on the marathon day. So that's my top tips for tapering. Really, there's only those two principles. Follow the plan, and if you're panicking, just chill out and still follow your plan. And it's an opportunity to let your body recover and get ready for the race. If you're going for any time, if you're going for a PB, for example, or you're going to push yourself to a place that perhaps you haven't been before, then you definitely need to follow your taper to the letter, because you need your body to recover and you need to build up your glycogen stores, and that's the whole point. And I would say that to anybody, but particularly if you're doing a PB where you really need to make sure that you're in prime condition for tapering. So number one, it's there for a reason. Follow your plan. Number two, if you're disappointed by your training schedule, if you haven't followed it for whatever reason, tapering's not the time to make up runs. Three, there is going to be a bit of a psychological kickback because you're doing less running and you're eating more potentially when you get to carb loading time. So you might have that little psychological impact. Just manage it, forgive yourself, and trust in the training that you've done and trust in the plan that you've got. And it will benefit you on the day. And then don't make any last minute mistakes. Don't change anything at the last minute. Don't change your nutritional strategy. Don't do any of that. And next week, what I'll do is I'll just talk about some common marathon mistakes, which that's one of them that I mentioned there, basically. Spoiler alert, is don't change anything last minute, particularly in tapering, because this is your chance to get physically and psychologically ready for the day. So that's my quick guide on tapering. It's not complicated. It's more, there's a lot of psychological in there as well as physical, to be fair, I think, from my experience. So yeah, hopefully that helps. Of course, if you want to reach out to me for any support or coaching or anything like that, you can reach out to me on Instagram, Tom Marathon. I appreciate the follow. Even if you just follow me over there, you're going to get tons of free content and tips, and you'll be able to watch my journey. Don't forget to like and share this podcast. Also give it a good star rating on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast from. The reviews and the ratings really, really help. So if you do appreciate this, the reviews and the rating really, really help. If you want to support the show, what you can do is if you subscribe to my Plus channel, the link will be in the description. What you'll get there is for $7 a month, you'll get the ability to get access to coaching sessions that I normally only give to my running coaching community, exclusive content for $7 a month. And plus, you'll be supporting the work that we do here on the podcast as well. So I really, really appreciate you listening. Obviously, I'll do another one next week, but good luck with your tapering. Chill out. It's part of the process. Thank you very much for your support. Don't forget to hop over to 12 Months to Marathon and follow me on Instagram as always. And I'll speak to you very soon indeed. Thank you.